How to identify and fix gaps in your practice workflow. Hey, it's Natasha, Sensei Tosh here with MedPro Dojo. Running a medical practice is like managing a well-oiled machine. Every part needs to work in harmony. Even the best systems can develop workflow gaps that hinder efficiency and patient satisfaction. So I want to really look at how things operate. And it's sometimes human nature to say, oh, we've got this thing. And then one little tiny part of that sequence falls out and the machine doesn't run like it should. So we're going to talk about what are the steps at looking at that. So one is auditing your current workflow. Start by examining your workflow from start to finish. I always say this is like running a 4-man relay. Okay, there's going to be legs of this relay and the passing of the baton to each person in that. So what does your patient intake process look like? Is it smooth? Are the forms set ahead of time? Or are the patients coming in to do that? That creates a huge bottleneck. So training your team members to have the patient fill out all that paperwork ahead of time is going to be important. Scheduling, are patients booking appointments without long wait times? Do you have a lot of cancellations or no-shows? How is this affecting your calendar, right? Because this can set people up that, hey, I thought I had this many people, and if you're adding 5 or 6 or 10 more walk-ins for the day, it can really cause a bottleneck and upset the staff because they're not prepared for those people to come in. This is why pre-scheduling is very, very critical. And then what are your clinical processes? Are your exam rooms fully prepared? Are staff spending too much time searching for supplies or waiting for instructions? So having standard operating procedures in place, policy around how things happen. So we have to always remember, how do we get to the well-oiled machine? We call that the dream scene. How do we move from where we're at currently to where we want to be perfectly? And so we have to break this down and check with each person in the process of how we do things in the office. Your team members are going to be able to give you great insight. So are your patients. So don't forget to ask them. Make sure you survey your patients through the re-exam forms. One of the tips here is use tools like flowcharts, routing form, images, or workflows to understand how does that process go from start to finish. Some people need to visualize in order to conceptualize how something works. Make sure you take your team through the process as well. So many offices that we visit and we go to do the trainings, the team members have not even been through a day 1 or day 2 process themselves. They don't know what happens in a re-exam. So take your team members through as if they're a patient. This will help too. Gather input from your team. Your team is on the front lines every day. They see the inefficiencies firsthand. Host team meetings to get these insights. This is something that you should be talking about every staff meeting. We call them opportunities for improvement. We also have a concerns and solutions list that we encourage our team members to use. If there was a concern, that means anything that hinders you, blocks you, stops you from being able to do your job properly, you write it on the concerns list, but you also write the solution and what is going to handle that exact thing. So make sure you're asking your team members. Sometimes they think, well, I don't want to bother them with this, but really they have the answer to fix this flow issue. What slows you down during the day? Encourage team members to share solutions that they've considered. Often it's just the small tweaks that is going to help achieve big results. So you also empower your team saying, it's okay, we need this feedback, but we do it in a constructive way. You bring the concern and you bring the solution along with that. You need to remember to analyze the data in your office through KPIs, through statistics. A lot of the EHRs have it built in to when that person checks in, to when they're moved into the room, to when the note in the fee slip is done. It can monitor the time there. So be looking at that as well. If you're telling a patient when they first come in, expect to be here 45 minutes to an hour, and they're there for an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. Are those patients going to be sticking around? No, they're not, because they're going to be really upset that you're not seeing their time as valuable. So there's so many little things that can literally get dropped out and make things not go right. And it creates inefficiencies in your practice. So let's work on these things fully and completely as a whole workflow cycle with your team to see where are those stop gaps in it so we can correct it and quantify it by using statistics, KPIs, time charts, things like that. If you have a rehab bay, our rehab bay had a rehab battle plan, and they could write in what time did that person physically walk into the space to when they completed all of the services. And then on the same sheet, they're writing in out time. And we're looking at that. We're reviewing that each week, whether that's at staff meeting, or I encourage every office to have a team training day where it's 1 hour, everybody's working together to dial in these inefficiencies. I'm using metrics and reports to uncover hidden issues, patient wait times, missed appointments, billing rejection rates, auditing delivered services. Are you using some type of travel card? Are you using a service tracker? That's letting you know, hey, I sold these services to the patient, but if they're not getting signed off on, this is not good, because people are going to be asking for refunds. So you have to make it part of somebody's position. Usually it's part of the office manager and the service or production manager, as we call it. It's their job to audit this type of information to be able to get a full picture. Are we rolling out the red carpet and giving great experiences, or are we fumbling through and people aren't staying because they don't like the long wait times? Patient re-exams. Are you asking patients for feedback on services and staff? Ask it from the person who's paying to have the services in the office. They will let you know. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our staff's concern? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the services that are provided? On a scale of 1 to 10, what have you experienced as your wait time beyond what you're originally told? Get feedback from your patients. It's going to be huge. One example that we wrote here, if no-shows are high, the root cause might be a lack of patient reminders. So data-driven insights help you to pinpoint a true problem. So then that says, okay, is that person getting a text message? When are they getting a text message? Are they getting a confirmation call? I've seen it where some of the systems have multiple appointments, and so they're sending text messages for all of the different appointments, and it confuses the patient on when they're actually supposed to show up. So taking a magnifying glass and really digging through the layers and looking at what are stop gaps in your workflow that's preventing you from having good efficiency. Then step 4 is prioritize areas with the biggest impact. Once you've identified gaps, focus on high impact areas first. Which problem is causing the most stress for the team and the patients? What fixes will improve efficiency without requiring significant investments? And a lot of times it doesn't cost anything. The only thing it costs is your time to train and apprentice your team. The time that it takes to sit and meet with your team to find out how is everything running, what's missing, what could create more efficiency. And if we don't ask, we're not usually going to get volunteered that information until it becomes a major complaint, a major upset, and then people are, for lack of a better word, pissed off. So if you're having team members that have a little bit of anxiety, they're stressed out, that means there's something in your workflow that is not efficient. Take the time, pull out the magnifying glass, peel back the onion and say, what is not working correctly here? You as the executive, if you're watching this, and even you as the manager should know how the system should work smoothly, proficiently, and ideally. That way we can train our teams how to get from where they're at to where you want to be. So one of the other things is improving scheduling systems might alleviate patient complaints and reduce staff frustration for sure. So Look at the things that are causing frustrations, either with your patients or with your team members. And that'll tell you, hey, this is where there's a gap that needs to be fixed. Step 5 is implement solutions gradually. Don't say, oh my gosh, I identified all these problems, let's fix them. That can be overwhelming. Pick one thing, fix it, then get to the next thing, until you get this well-oiled machine. Just like if you're going to go into a mechanic and there's a problem with the system in the machine, it could be different systems, just like in our body. We have a cardiovascular system, we have a circulatory system, we have a digestive system. We have all these different types of systems. We need to see which system is not firing properly and do the diagnostics to be able to identify where that's at. So these, again, can be patient intake, use digital forms or online portals to reduce front desk congestion, scheduling, implement automated appointment reminders, double booking buffers to prevent overbooking, and then also pre-scheduling out your patients. At the end of your day 2, the report of findings, when a person says, yes, I'm committed to care, schedule them out entirely for their care plan. So you're not running into people who have said yes, and they're trying to walk in, and that's causing some bottlenecks because all these people are walking in versus being pre-scheduled out. So people are always excited when they're like, oh, we beat our pre-scheduled. We had 50 more visits than what was pre-scheduled. I'm saying that's not a good thing. They're like, but why? We're 50 more than we were pre-scheduled for. Well, that lets me know there's people on care plans that were not pre-scheduled out. Now your team's having to adjust for this extra patient flow that they didn't mentally or physically prepare for, like writing the notes or the battle plans. So really look at all of your KPIs, your key performance indicators, the sub indicators, to let you know how things are moving and working. Clinic workflow, optimize room setups, creating checklists to ensure that everything is stocked and ready, making sure you have good inventory. We even had doorbells. So we had medical hot seats and we had 4 rooms that were constantly loaded. So when a person came to the medical area, they would sit down and ring the doorbell. That let the medical assistant know, come out, room the patient. But it also was a little mental thing that the nurse practitioner knew, okay, there's another person on deck. And it also grooms the patients to know, hey, I want to be respectful of other times as others' times as I want my time to be respected. That they're not going to sit and talk to the provider for long periods of time because they're hearing that doorbell as well, going, oh, there's another new patient. So they're going to get in for their service and then move out for the rest of it so they can be respectful of their time and other people's times as well. Billing team, training your team on coding, using the softwares properly to see if there's any flags, or to scrub the stuff and say, no, this fee isn't going to go out with a modifier. So get this corrected before it goes out. That way you're not billing and you're getting denials 3 weeks later when it could have been handled the day that it went out. So make sure you have systems in place for that. And then also the patient experience. Patients need to have an experience, not just an office visit. So this is why tight coordination, team meetings, team huddles in the morning to talk about every single person who's coming in, what needs to be delivered to them is gone over every single day so that we can roll out the red carpet. We have a different thing that we talk about is the difference between prep time. That's our time to communicate with each other. When we go into production time, that's our communication time with the patients. So creating a wonderful experience with the patients instead of talking back and forth to each other when we're in production time. So step 6 is you want to monitor and adjust. You want to identify the problems, come up with the solutions, and then put that into practice, see how it goes. So after implementing changes, track your progress, ensure that those gaps are closed. Are we still hearing the same complaints? Are we still seeing the same statistics? If that's the fact, then you haven't found the root cause. So go back and look at the area again. Collect feedback from staff and patients. Are they noticing improvements? Review metrics to confirm results. So, like I said, have wait times decreased? Are the claims being handled? Workflow optimization is not a one-time task. Make this a routine process, revisiting workflows quarterly. I'm going to say even sooner than that. We're looking at those daily. We're looking at them weekly until it's dialed in. Take a workflow that's not going well, dial it in, get another one, dial it in, get it another one, dial it in. And now you will have that well-oiled machine. Now I'm seeing this. I just had a conversation at 6 o'clock this morning about workflows not being dialed in. Why? Because it was brand new. And all of the things, all of the knowledge that was needed from the beginning to the very end was not fully understood. So there's a lot of stop gaps in between. It means that a wheel's missing, a belt's missing, so the machine can't run. It can't produce the product that you're looking for. So go back to training. Say we put a lot of emphasis on onboarding. If it's a new service, you have to onboard everybody onto this new service. We have to spend time training how it's done. And then the apprenticeship is the fine tuning and the maintenance to that machine that keeps it running really well. And so make this a routine process, revisit workflows to ensure continuous improvement. You need to have somebody who's responsible for monitoring this, typically your service manager, production manager, office manager, and then you as the owner need to be looking at this. So really, executives, owners, if you're a technician of your organization, be very, very mindful to have people in place to do this for you, but really free yourself up from the technician role to be the executive and make sure you can go around and that all of your machines are well oiled and they are firing on all cylinders. This is the most important thing for you because you get to be the visionary and to bring other services into the office. If you're stuck fixing and repairing, it's hard to teach everybody else how to do the other things that are needed. So train them, free yourself up so you can watch and ensure that this machine is running correctly. And the payoff for optimized workflow, identifying and fixing the gaps in your workflow can feel overwhelming, but it's one of the most impactful ways to fix your practice and let it become what it was designed to do. Failing is part of learning. Just literally had this conversation this morning. It is okay to, we call it fail, fast forward. Fail, figure out what the learning thing was from that, create a new policy or procedure around that so it doesn't happen again. And then with streamlined processes, you'll not only reduce stress for your team, but you'll also provide amazing experiences for your patients. And that translates into increased patient retention. I'm going to say higher referral rates, higher revenue, happier staff, and people who have amazing results from what you do. That was another conversation I had at lunchtime is, hey, my referrals and my retention and my reactivations stink. Well, you know what? People think it's a right now thing, but all of that happens from the seeds that are planted and the day one and the day two and every visit succeeding all the way up to the completion of that care plan. So it's not just a one thing that you can do, but it's a multitude of things that need to be done from the first phone call to the time that the person walks in the door. They go through the day one, day two, and every visit following that leads up to these things. So if you want to have a viable expanding practice where people are paying, staying, and referring, and then coming back to you as their primary care, it all starts with understanding these workflow processes, finding the gaps, closing the gaps, and creating exceptional experiences for your practice members. So please train your teams. If you need help, this is what we're experts in doing, is identifying what are the gaps in the workflows. Let us know how we can help you, whether it's over the phone, whether it's training with your team inside the dojos, or if you're hiring us to come to your office to do an on-site, which we spend 3 days with your team in training to get all of this stuff dialed in. We would be happy and honored to do so. So please watch this video a few times over because there's a lot of information. Share this with your teams so they understand. Most people want to help, but they don't know how to, or they don't have the right tools to do so. So teach your team how to do this. If you need help, we're here for you. Thank you so much for being here. Sensei Tosh, we'll see you next time.